Welcome to the Warrior Way podcast, where we talk about all things Liberty Christian School. I'm your host for today, Jared Malinchuk, Assistant Head of School, and I'm so glad you're joining us for today's show. Today is episode number 27, and we're talking leadership and community with our upper school principal, Miss Heather Lytle. So with that, let's dive into today's conversation. Heather, welcome to the podcast today. How are you doing?
I'm doing super. Thanks for having me.
I am glad that you took out some time of your busy principal life to join us. And you have a unique perspective in your role as principal at Liberty because of your history with the school, and I can't wait to get into some of that. Before we go into those details, how did you get into education, and then kind of walk us through how you got to this current role as the upper school principal?
Yeah, that's great. It was kind of fun to think about that and go down memory lane. I grew up in southern Oklahoma in a small town, Denton, Oklahoma, which was a great place to grow up. I had a wonderful biology teacher for 2 years. Mrs. Barrington was my biology teacher for 2 years, and I just loved biology. So when I went to school at TCU, didn't know a soul, and that was part of the attraction for coming to Fort Worth. But I went to TCU, and I declared biology as a major, but with no real intent to go to medical school. My dad is a family doctor, and he said, Heather, if you want to go study medicine, then I 100% support you, but it's going to be a different experience for you than it would be for me, just through the way that healthcare has been changing over time. And so he just... I don't know. He didn't really push me toward that. And in my mind, from what I knew about how often he was gone on call and his kind of crazy schedule being a family doctor, I was like, I want to be a mom someday. And that's probably not a great career that would, it would make it challenging to be a good mom and to be a good doctor. And so I worked at a summer camp, a Christian sports camp called T-Bar-M in New Braunfels for several summers, and was like, man, this is awesome. These are great kids. Yeah. It's a good feeling to be able to pour into them. I taught tennis, and it was so much fun. And I thought, maybe I'll just go get my certification to teach. So as I finished my biology degree and did my student teaching, and I was looking for a teaching job over Christmas break, which there's not very many unless someone has moved or is having a baby. And so I took I found a job at a local school district, public school outside of Fort Worth. And I started the Monday after Super Bowl Sunday. Wow. And they had a gray-haired substitute in their classroom all that fall. And I said, okay, pull out your books. And they're like, what book? And so it was a challenging experience. And I quickly called my professors back at TCU, and I said, listen, this is not going great. And they said, Heather, we're going over applications tomorrow for graduate assistants. If you want to come and apply before you go to work tomorrow, you can be considered. And because I knew them all, I could take my GRE later and all of that. So I ran back to graduate school as fast as I could. But I was still a teacher because I taught undergraduate biology labs, which is a great way to pay for my graduate school. And I'm so thankful for the Lord orchestrating all of that, because if I had waited 24 hours later, there wouldn't have been an opportunity for me. So that's definitely one of those milestones in my life when I look back and see that God has planted these little opportunities for me that I would say I kind of stumbled upon, but he totally was looking out for me. So anyway, I got my master's degree in biology. I worked for an environmental consulting firm for a few years before we started our family. And then when we started our family, I didn't want to work full time. And so I started teaching adjunct at North Lake College, part of the Dallas College system.
Awesome.
And we had two boys, Ben and Jack, and we were going through a parenting class that was meeting every Sunday night. And I wanted a sitter to come to the house and put the boys to bed. And I asked my friend who she would recommend, and she recommended Sarah Veerling. And Sarah had just finished 8th grade at Liberty. Wow. And she was the very first Liberty student that I met. And she happened to be a rock star. And so that fall, Ben was 4, would start kinder the next year. And we thought, let's just go look at Liberty. We really are impressed with Sarah and her family and had heard about Liberty. And so we went and toured. And Dr. Hare was our tour guide. And he toured us, I think it was homecoming week. So it was a total circus on campus. We were in the middle of the hallways when the bell rang, and all the kids were in the hallway. And it was crazy. It was back at the Bonnie Brae campus.
Fun.
And they had just built a new set of portables and had a brand new science lab. And I walked in, and you see the black tabletops just glistening and shining. And I'm like, oh, this is awesome. And I asked Dr. Hare, we're touring for kindergarten, Dr. Hare, have you guys ever thought about having a college model with a lab teacher and the classroom teachers for your science classes? And he says, no, you want to come do it? I'm like, absolutely. So that was my job interview to come work at Liberty.
Love it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's another God opening a door to walk into. God has wired me to be a teacher.
That's right.
And, we can talk about me being a principal later on, but
Sure.
He's wired me to be a leader. And I've been put in different positions in my life that I really wasn't seeking leadership, but it's just something that God has provided those opportunities, and I've walked into it. So I think I'm wired to be a teacher, and I'm wired to be a leader. So this is it's been the perfect place for me.
So when Dr. Hare and that kind of God moment, if you will, how long was that stretch when you were in the classroom serving at Liberty for? How many years?
From when I started there,
yeah,
till I became principal.
Yeah, how long are we talking?
17 plus.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So we were just talking before we went on air about some of the alumni that you taught that are now serving students at Liberty. You want to give them a shout out to some of the names that come to your mind that are current?
So I think that's one of the strong selling features of Liberty is the alumni that return back. But I taught Matt Hayburn. I taught Zach Bowles and his brother Matt Bowles. I taught Lindsay Charles. I taught Sarah Doolin, she's a new primary school teacher. I taught Sarah. I taught Jordan Liddell. She's in the primary school. Taught Jennifer Dow. She was one of the gals that did all my extracurricular science stuff with us. She's a good Science Bowl gal and Science Olympiad gal.
Oh my gosh.
So,
that's
and
phenomenal.
I'm afraid that if I've missed anybody, but I taught
That's
Sydney.
a good list.
Yeah, it's a real honor to be able to call them colleagues now. Yeah.
And so we know in your career, obviously there was a promotion of principal. We'll get to that in just a minute. So, but a lot of our parents that listen to this podcast may not know that Liberty has not always been where Liberty is now. Mm-hmm. Liberty had a life physically somewhere else before, and you got to be a part of that experience. Share with us, as we think about Denton, the Bonnie Brae campus, maybe a memory or two that you have of that place that's for some of our listeners, give them a little insight into that.
Yeah. So Bonnie Brae, I'm thankful I worked at Bonnie Brae just because I can appreciate the blessings that God has given us here in Argyle. You did not sign up to come to Liberty based on drive-up appeal. There was no curb appeal. Every building didn't match the other buildings. They tried really hard to landscape and make it look nice and clean. But you walked in the door and you knew that this was a place where you wanted to be. So I would tell friends, you can go look at Liberty, but don't, unless you're serious, leave your checkbook at home because you're going to want to sign up and bring your kids to the school. Some favorite memories as I think about the time at Bonnie Brae. Friday Night Lights was so fun, and I'm glad that's still a big thing now for the whole community. Whether you have elementary kids or high school kids, everybody comes to the games. But we would bring our camp chairs, our folding chairs, and we would sit up behind the goalpost and chit chat. And there were several times when people would get hit in the head with a ball because they weren't paying attention to the game. They were having fun socializing. But that was so much fun. And Matt Hayburn's dad, Richard Hayburn, was always the voice of Liberty. And,
love it. And
you didn't know what a football game felt like without him being there leading on the PA system. I remember Cindy Rose was the cafeteria manager, and she would have mothers that were on her cafeteria crew. So we didn't have Sage dining. We had our kind of homegrown people doing all the meals. And when it was Burger Day, everybody knew it because they would put the grills outside of the building and they'd be grilling all morning. So as people are walking, you had to go outside to go from building to building or go to the gym. And so everybody knew it was Burger Day because you would smell the burgers cooking. And that was always so much fun. So much fun. We had we loved teaching in the portables just because you would get the fresh air and all of that. But when it would get icy or wet and slick, the kids would skate and kind of slide on the decks. And I remember running out several times and telling them to stop doing that. I took advantage of it as a biology lab teacher. We would dissect pigs with the freshmen, and I would tell them or ask them, how long do you think this intestine is? Because it's all wadded up together inside of the abdomen. And so some of them would say, about 12 inches or whatever. And I said, well, let's see how long it is. So we started snipping out the intestine, and someone says, hey, this is long enough to jump rope. So I think we went 8 years in a row with a jump rope contest, and we knew who the leader was. It was 230 jumps.
I love this.
With the pig intestine before it split apart, but we could do it outside on the deck, right? Because we were in the portable, so we just stepped outside and made a mess. But anyway,
that's active learning.
You could ask Matt about that. I bet Matt remembers that. Good times. So you have this great cultural context about Liberty, about where it was, where it is now, and then you're in the classroom. You have all the influence of those alumni that you mentioned, and of course several more too. And then God called you into leadership at Liberty, and now you're serving an upper school principal. Tell us about that transition, that role, a little bit about your leadership, what you love about your job as you serve the families and students in the upper school. That's great.
And the faculty.
Well, becoming principal was another one of those God moments. I think I've heard the Holy Spirit in my head and heart maybe 3 times in my life. Mm-hmm. And one of them was the call to apply to be principal. So David Martine was the previous principal, mm-hmm. and David had been at Liberty a long, long time. I mean, a lot of people didn't know Liberty without David, and he played several roles on campus, but he served for upper school principal for 3 or 4 years. And he told the upper school staff the Monday before Christmas finals that he wasn't going to return after break. And so everybody was kind of shell-shocked and went back to their classrooms thinking, wow, did he really say he's not coming back? And then by snack, we're like, I really hope it's somebody internal that knows our culture that steps in, especially since it's mid-year.
Yeah.
And then by lunch, I heard in my ear, you need to put your name in the hat. And I'm like, what? You need to put your name in the hat. And I was doing Bible study fellowship, and we were studying John, and we had just studied John 10 about the good shepherd.
Yes.
The sheep know my voice, the sheep hear my voice, and the sheep obey my voice. And I'm like, I can't deny this. And so I prayed about it. I got some counsel, and I put my name in the hat. Not really expecting to get the job. Had my interview, went on Christmas break, and got a call from Dr. McCullough that he said, we'd like to invite you to become the principal. And I was like, okay.
Wow.
My boys had both graduated, and so I'm thankful for that. I think if they were both on campus, it might have been a different feeling. But I was ready for the next way to serve at Liberty. And I think there's hopefully things that I bring to the table that are beneficial to my students and to my faculty. I love this school. And I don't think I have it in place in my heart as an idol, but I just think it's been good for me. It's been great for my family. I love the relationships that I have with my colleagues and with my students and the parents. And I feel like we're always growing and heading toward great things. And I feel like it's a great place to fight the good fight and to grow myself. So I'm very blessed and thankful.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the lightning round. Here we're going to have our guests answer as many questions as possible in 30 seconds. Heather, are you ready?
Oh, ready or not. Here goes nothing.
Here we go. Favorite place you've ever traveled?
Jackson Hole, Wyoming.
Fresh food or fried food?
Fresh food.
What phrase do you find yourself typing the most?
Be a pro.
What was your last impulse buy?
Oh, dear. I bought 2 tops and a sweater this weekend. Yeah.
Very good.
Hoping for cooler weather.
Now, I know you have the science background. What insect would freak you out the most if it walked across this desk?
Cockroach.
Heather, I want to give you the final word for today's show. Go ahead and share a word of encouragement or a scripture with the Warrior community.
That's great. Thank you, Jared. I wanted to share my favorite verse, and I don't know if it's my life verse or not, but it's the one the last several years that has kind of stuck with me. And I love the visual imagery that this verse gives, and that maybe it reflects back to me being a biology teacher and loving botany. But Colossians 2, 6, and 7. So then, just as you received Christ Jesus as Lord, continue to live your lives in Him, rooted and built up in Him, strengthened in the faith as you were taught, and overflowing with thankfulness. I think this is my prayer for our students and our families, for my colleagues, that God is working in us and He's not done with us. And the Christian life, even once we receive Christ as our Lord and Savior, is a process of sanctification and continuing to grow. And I think as we grow, we need to be quick to tell God thank you. I think there's so many good things. Kind of aligns with the verse for Liberty for the year, the Romans 8:28, that God has good in store for us, but we miss it if we go too fast. So I think part of the discipline of being attentive and paying attention to what's God doing and being quick to say thank you is just so very important. So be thankful today.
I want to thank our upper school principal, Miss Heather Lytle, for being on the podcast today, along with Mr. Josh and Mr. Hayburn for the behind-the-scenes support of the show. If you have any questions or comments for the show, feel free to drop us a line at podcast@mylcs.com. Be sure to subscribe to Warrior Way Podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you consume your podcast services. Until next time, go Warriors.